Hello, how are you? Good morning and welcome. It's Destination Newry. It's the morning programme. I'm Rowan Hand, Brian Hyland and Garth McCulloch from the Newry Reporter. And as is our wont on a weekly basis, we peruse the pages with you. And has it been a busy week that's gone by?
Has been certainly from the sporting point of view. Yeah.
Do you want to lead with sport for us?
I suppose there's obviously the big match of the weekend was down against Derry in the Ulster Championship.
Were they robbed? Were they robbed?
I don't know about robbed, but I mean, let's just say there's been a few queries about Eddie Kinsella, the referee from Laois. Didn't have the most auspicious of games. But I mean, they probably, even though they're down to 14 men from pretty early in the second half, they probably could have got a result out of it.
Yeah.
But our back page story is, spoke with Jim McCarry on Tuesday morning. He had the players back in training on Monday night, so it was pretty much 24 hours after the match. There was no rest time. He said it wasn't necessarily a full training session. It was just to get the boys' sort of heads cleared.
Yeah. Where do they go from here?
They're now drawn away at the losers of Wexford and Westmeath on June 27th in the first round of the qualifiers. So, looking at either of those fixtures, they should beat the really stuffed Westmeath away from home.
That's a good technical footballing term.
Yeah. And Elliot spanked.
Same thing. Yeah.
They beat them like by 13 points.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the league, so they probably will be hopeful of getting through. But that's another away draw, which is not good for the supporters.
Okay, Brian, take us into news, will you?
Obviously, we'll start with the front page. And our headline is eviction call. And it's a councillor basically calling for evictions out of Dobson's Way. Which is
you majored on it because on page 4 that story continues for 2 full columns.
Quite detailed, sort of.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of residents out there are very unhappy about what's going on in terms of antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, and two houses boarded up already.
It's not too long open either.
Housing executives saying, oh, we have no open cases of antisocial behaviour there at the moment. We know nothing about it. So there's something wrong there.
Yeah, well, it's not a housing executive development, it's a housing association development.
Housing association, I beg your pardon. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've seen in here. Yeah.
Of course they're going to say that, but obviously a number of residents have complained about ongoing disturbances. A lot of young children out there, apparently there's fights at night. And that's not...
it's not the way you want to live.
No, it's not, and it's not to say that all residents are like that. I think it's a very, very small number.
Yeah, but here on a good news, the Inland Waterways Association, Newry and Portadown branch, they have been awarded the Queen's Birthday Honours list. It's the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, the MBE for voluntary groups for what they're doing on the Newry Canal. They're building locks and lock chambers and everything's going swimmingly there. They're doing good things. We should be very proud of them.
Yeah, it's something we covered in the paper not so long ago. Obviously they're doing a very good job out there. Similarly, on the other side of Newry Moor Council are fixing the lock gates on the Omeath Road. So,
are you old enough to remember the boat that... two things. One, the boat that ran into the lock gates and paralysed the canal for weeks and months on end, and then the explosion that occurred. You wouldn't remember any of that.
No, but what year did it close to?
Don't ask me the year. I can't remember years, but it seems a while ago now. But we've done good things with it, and it's happening,
Yeah, but there's an ongoing story just about Albert Basin and the canal, and are we getting as much as we should be getting out of it in terms of it's a prime site?
Well, I can tell you with absolute certainty that I was commissioned to do the Parker Green presentation when they were going to sell it off to people to do things. And the Parker Green, Gerard O'Hare's project, was going to run a continental European style electric tram all the way from South Armagh through Newry, across the basin, all the way to Rostrevor and back again on an ongoing basis. There's going to be a magnificent conference centre and music hall in the middle of the basin, which would have gone into the ownership of the people of Newry forever. And for some administrative difficulty in the council it was scrapped. And nobody got it,
I think people are still maybe discontented about what happened there a number of years ago and why it didn't come to fruition.
You, like me, Brian, would be a sort of a canal man in that we hail from that end of the town, the Mary Street and
River Street.
River
My
Street
grandfather
area.
worked at Albert Basin on the boats as well.
My
The Olive,
goodness.
I think he
The
worked
Olive.
on the Olive.
Ah, yeah.
And died at sea, yeah. So, well, Newry has a really rich maritime history,
Without a
obviously.
doubt.
You know about it as
sure,
well.
it's great.
And that's
Yeah.
why I think people are frustrated that maybe that they haven't developed Albert Basin.
Yeah.
Like
It'll
James-
come.
James
It'll
Black-
come.
Yeah, well, I hope
Has
so.
to come.
James McAreevy wants a maritime historical museum there.
He's a good man too.
So,
You know,
yeah,
we're,
there's
all-
something to-
we're blessed with the
something-
two organisations we've got. We have the Inland Waterways Association and we have the Newry Maritime Association. And good luck to them. More sports, Sarah.
A couple of stories relating to Armagh. This has been the last of the GEA we'll talk about today, but this was the only show in time this weekend is Armagh now coming into the Ulster Championship quarter-final. We played Donegal, which is arguably the toughest tie they could have got. So we have interviews with manager Kieran McGeeney, captain Kieran McKeever and Tony Kernan. So we're 3 pages.
Are they more willing these days to talk to the press? Do you remember the
well, yeah,
debacle when they weren't so willing?
Yes and no, although it did involve the assembled media being called to the Canal Court Hotel at 7 a.m. Not last Monday, the Monday before.
That's pretty good.
Now you did
pretty-
get your
pretty
breakfast.
early.
You did get your breakfast out of it, you know. So I was happy enough for that. But you know, it's still that was they will do one sort of meeting where everybody
Yeah.
can speak to them, as opposed to they don't do phone calls these days. But so that's sort of the only show in town this weekend. There'll be a lot of people are maybe tipping Armagh to get a result, but
Yeah.
it's going to be as difficult as it can get. Then just on page 48, Armagh hurlers were in the Nicky Raggard Cup final.
Yes.
They were leading
Unfortunate.
114 to 112
Yeah.
going into stoppage time, and Roscommon scored the goal.
Yeah, that
which
did it.
Sort of broke Armagh hearts. They're very unlucky by all reports.
But isn't it interesting that but teams like Armagh and Down, who would not have traditionally been hurling counties, are now coming forward?
Yeah, well, I
Dublin
mean,
too.
Yeah,
in there.
it's. I mean, you'd have your like your Kilkennys and your Tipperaries
Absolutely.
and things like that. You know, they're obviously the top level. But you know, I suppose, I mean, the vast majority of the Down team sort of is they're known as the Ardsmen because they're from around the
North
Ards.
Down.
Hurling around sort of the South Down area, around your area, certainly, you know, wouldn't be as prevalent as football is. So, but
Tell me this before we leave the stick game. How's hockey these days in Newry?
yeah, well, there's been a lot of changes in Ulster hockey since the end of the season just passed. Because there was the league that the Newry were playing in the Premier League, but there was also the Irish hockey, the All Ireland Hockey League, which I think it was the top four out of each province was played in. Now they have decided to break away from Ulster, so it means that Newry would have been in a playoff to stay up. And it means that they'll now be probably one of the top 6 sides in Northern Ireland, in Ulster.
In Ulster, yeah.
Because the other teams, like Banbridge, Annandale, I think from Belfast, Lisnagarvey, Cookstown, have all decided to jump ship and are heading down to play down south.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
it's going to be interesting how it works out. If they hadn't have left the way it was going to fall, they wouldn't be able to play European hockey. So, which is the big thing, especially if they have a lot of guys here on the Ireland international team. So
yeah.
from Newry's point of view, it may be a benefit to them because they may be able to get players from other clubs playing in the senior league. So,
Yeah.
see.
Brian, you take me into news now. We'll alternate it, will we? Yeah.
Yeah,
Where are
no
we
problem.
going?
Just staying on page 4 there, Rowan. Donald McMahon has done a story. Danny Kennedy. Danny's obviously the DRD minister.
I thought Kennedy was doing a fair enough job.
He is. He's like, but like all ministers, he's got his hands tied because of budget cuts.
Yeah.
Danny announced there before Christmas that street lights weren't going to be fixed, not
Yeah.
just in Newry but across Northern Ireland. And again, this was due to a minimal budget. Now he's facing a no confidence motion next week because of the way he's handled the budget. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. That was brought forward by
He
Trevor
did a
Clark.
good job. He was down in, was it last Saturday he went down to Dublin and saw the Taoiseach and he got final assurances about the King's Mills papers. that are down there.
And he's been very proactive this last number of years. Danny doing that. In fact, it's on the front page. Just that we're edging.
You have it there.
We're
yeah.
edging closer and closer to the Irish government releasing.
And it's not any political reticence. It's Kenny's putting in place the necessary legal end of things to allow it to happen. I think that's what it is.
And actually, with the Spotlight programme last week, it sort of ties in that they were saying there was a form of collusion involved in the Kingsmill massacre as well.
Yeah.
And then you start wondering, well, is that key to the ongoing holdback and files not being released?
That was an awful interview. The Spotlight got it was a great interview from a news point of view. But the interrogation of the woman who went missing.
Well, that was last night.
Yeah, goodness gracious. Can you imagine listening to an interview of a woman who was confessing to being an informer and knowing that within a day she was going to be shot? It's harrowing.
Listening to the interview, I got the impression that maybe she thought she wasn't going to be shot. She didn't sound like someone who was fearful for her life.
We've been through terrible times.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
Thankfully, we've come out.
Back a wee bit into sport, please, sir.
The Crooked Lake Triathlon out of Camna took place over the weekend. Seemed to be another roaring success. I think they've got a mixture of weather for it, which is always a factor when you're competing in a triathlon. We sort of led with the first local man. James Edgar of Lisburn Triathlon Club won it. And
it was Barry, was it?
Barry Convery, he came third. Barry Convery,
the running postman.
And also has been in adverts for supermarkets as well.
He has, I've seen him there.
For a supermarket, a German. No, it's a German supermarket that shan't be named.
I do hope he was handsomely rewarded for it. With more than a medal.
Goodness knows.
It's 4 letters and 2 syllables.
That's the one. But we've got a photograph of Barry there on page 37. I say everybody knows him. Barry's a good man about town.
He's a nice lad too.
Yeah,
he's a solid fellow.
We've a couple of pages of pictures with all the results. We also have our esteemed editor, Mr. Paul Welsh, who completed the triathlon, Crooked Lake Triathlon.
Really?
I do believe for the first time, yeah.
That really?
He's done.
I have to say that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
It doesn't.
I'm quite sure that that's only to be expected of Mr. Welsh.
Well, I'm not sure what way to take that. We also have Tony Bagnall from the Newry Democrat in the photographs as well. But there's full results. It's a great event. It's grown and grown over the last few years, and it's attracting people from far and wide. And it really is a big sort of event on the triathlon map. And triathlon as a sport is growing and growing. In Ireland, so.
I remember too when the Newry marathon started, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah. I remember there was a huge doubt over whether it would take off, but hasn't it taken off, and how?
Running in general has taken off big time in the last number of years.
Fitness, I mean, I think it's good to see. Fitness is sort of something over the past 5-6 years between running and the athletics clubs springing up, or certainly growing. Triathlon club. You've got a number of cycling clubs as well, so it generally seems to be everybody around the area seems to be getting on board, so which can only be
I remember a few years back being in New Zealand, and I was mightily impressed with the country and the country's people, because they were out running in the morning time. They were cycling, they were running on the boardwalks, they were fanatical for fitness. Sure, we're now seeing it in Newry.
Yeah.
And New Zealand has an advantage in terms of its weather and climate, But it's great to see,
It's good to see it. Yeah. Now, Brian.
Just on page 6, we council round up there, but then there's a wee story there, and I'm sure you're probably interested, having lived down there at some stage. Narrowwater Keep.
Narrowwater Castle,
there's no money to keep it open.
They were at that carry on last year as well.
Yeah, well, it wasn't open at Easter week, and it's not going to be open during the summer. And I would say it's probably the most iconic building in Newry and Moore.
Beautiful.
It's obviously a postcard.
The great legend there of Lysara, who her ghost is heard in the battlements there every so often, because when she was her lover was escaping by boat across the Narrows, and the archers of the aristocrats took him down, and she witnessed this, and within the day she threw herself from the top of the castle. And on dark nights, Brian and Garth, with mist coming up the loch into the Narrows, her wails and her moaning and her crying and her shouting.
It's not one of your past conquests, no?
I was going to say something.
What can I say? What can I say? Oh my goodness!
I'm following up on what you say off.
There's a lot of legend around Narrowwater, obviously.
Yes.
But it's an iconic building. I think the council there look at it and maybe taking away. I think it's under control.
It's something should be open.
It should be open, yeah.
Not only should it be open, it should be used as a banqueting place and all the rest of it, you know.
Look, this new council's committed to, their big drive is on tourism, and that's the way they want to make money. We've got the Moorings and Sleeve Gullion and that, and Newry Waterkeep fits into that there, tourism push. But it's closed.
Okay.
But I think the council are considering maybe taking over responsibility from Northern Ireland Environment.
Okay, young Mr. McCulloch, sir.
Yeah, last Wednesday, so it was just over a week ago, but we have coverage of the cycling, the Seat Super 7 race, Super 7 Crit series as it's known as. It was hosted in Newry. So it was a proper race right through the roads of the town, down Hill Street and Mary Street. You know, it wasn't sort of like the Giro last year where it was all up, you know, sort of around South there. Man, this was slap bang in the centre of the town. Got a huge crowd out to it. It was hosted by Newry Wheelers.
Who
are a fantastic club who seem to be going from strength to strength. So
and they're also concentrating on youth cycling. They want young people involved.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we've got photographs there from and a race report from goes from under 14s, under 16s, right up to the seniors. So I mean, there was a broad sort of cross section of age groups racing on it, and people say again, bringing more people from outside the town. It's great to have all the people from Newry, but bringing people from here, there and everywhere into the town, seeing what Newry's like. So it seemed to be a huge success. So it's great for Newry Wheelers because
you're talking with a certain amount of pride in the town. What's it like being a young journalist? I'm going to ask each of you, a young journalist today in the city of Newry.
Well, no, but if you're asking about a young journalist, you can speak to me.
You tell us first. What's it like? What's your feeling for Newry?
In general, or as from being a journalist?
No, in general. For a citizen of the city.
It has its ups and downs. I think if you're being honest, you know, it has its good points and its bad points. But I think you can safely say it for anywhere, anywhere, any city, any town, any large town, any small city. I suppose that's what we are. I think probably it's as much the surrounding areas, you know, the likes of the Mourne Mountains and even the drive up the Warren Point. I've said this numerous occasions. We don't appreciate the view and the scenery we have. If you're driving from East to Mourne Point, you drive up and down Mourne Point in Newry every day.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Yeah, and when you actually stop and take a look at it, it's fantastic. I mean, I was at the Irish Open Golf in Royal County Down, and the amount of people saying, "Look at the scenery, look at the scenery." But you could tell all the local people.
Yeah, they weren't noticing.
But it was the people from out of town. So I mean, we're starting. I think from a tourism point of view, I think that's really starting to be marketed. There was so much to market.
Golf, you mentioned. Why did McIlroy get it wrong?
Well, he hadn't been playing well coming into it. He hadn't played well. He missed the cut in the PGA the week before.
Yeah.
And it was the end of what he was saying was a 5-week cycle, which he would very rarely play 5 tournaments in 5 weeks. But I also think, and he said this wasn't the case, but I think he's maybe not being fully truthful. The amount of pressure on him, I mean, he was hosting a tournament.
Yes.
He was doing a lot of stuff for his foundation.
Yes.
He raised hundreds of thousands of pounds for foundation, which is, you know, arguably the main thing, which is fantastic. Up in Daisy Lodge up in Newcastle.
That's right.
From that point of view, I mean, he was doing a lot of stuff off the course. For him to play at the top of his game, you have to be fully concentrated on what you're doing. But I'd say, you know, he'll be back in the next few weeks.
Brian, take us into news again, if you would. See where we're going.
I thought you were going to ask me.
Well, I'm going to actually. I did want to ask you.
That's okay.
No, I did want to ask you. I got carried away.
We'll devote our time to promoting the
you must
newspaper.
tell me what it's like being a young journalist in Newry today.
Well, I will tell you what it's like.
You be quiet.
What age are you anyway?
He's very old.
30 what?
3.
I think he's being slightly untruthful there.
Check the Facebook.
Right, go ahead. What's the joy?
As a father, I was maybe going to digress a wee bit. As a father of 3 young children, I think Newry's come on quite a bit in recent years. We've finally got the swimming pool. We've got the likes of Sleeve Gullion, Dragons there, and I think there's a lot more facilities. Obviously, we're going through a very tough period in the last 40 years here, and Newry economically wasn't doing too well. We've come out of that now, but I think that as a father, the facilities available now for children compared to when I was that age is fantastic, you know. But obviously, I mentioned Newry Waterkeep. There's other things we can improve the area to make it more appetising, you know,
Gareth,
appealing for people to come.
Do any of these things that he speaks of, that Brian speaks of, encourage you to sally forth and out of an evening and perhaps to consider becoming a father? or finding a lady and taking her to yourself.
He's getting engaged. He's getting
Oh, you
married.
have a lady?
He's getting married next year.
I'm so pleased. I'm delighted for you. That's good.
Swings
That's
him
good.
off the market. So it might please you, but some of the other females around the town may not be.
But I'm
so
not a
pleased.
female. You say other females. I'm, just use of language, dear boy. Use of language.
There was an inference there.
Was there? Can I ask you? Were you a popular runner in the race? Were they after you always? You said yourself they're going to be
Jack
disappointed.
Murphy's trying to get in here. No?
Yeah.
I
Tell him to go the other door and
will
bring
leave.
his diamonds with him.
I would have to, at the risk of coming across as arrogant, I'll leave that for other people to decide. But yes, what are you joking?
Okay, Brian, give us a bit more news if you would.
I
Hello,
wanna
Mr.
hear
Murphy,
more. No.
with you shortly. Good, please be seated.
Two right lads this morning.
Yes, we'll be with you presently. We're live at the moment. Now,
I prefer we stayed on Garrett's love life.
I know
No,
we're
no,
going.
no.
We're starting to go places.
That's
there.
not.
Yeah.
That's not.
But
well-
she's a good lady? Is she a nice lady?
I wouldn't be marrying her if she wasn't.
Wow, listen to that. Well, there's only one place to get the ring, anyway, that's another matter. We'll talk
And
then
that's,
shortly.
and that's exactly where I got it.
That's brilliant.
Did
Right,
you-
Brian.
did you get
please.
discounts?
No, I'm joking.
That's
Quick.
why. That's why.
Quick,
he went,
be quiet,
That's
be
why he
quiet.
went to Bennett's.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Right, moving swiftly on. Can I talk
give us
about sport?
More news. Yeah, but he's going to run a. You've got 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. We interviewed with the PSNA officer who is part of the local drugs team, just about drugs in Newry and that there. So
Yeah.
let Gareth take on.
Gareth, indeed. I see the police are starting to learn about farming ways. It's like an episode of The Archers on Radio 4. The PSNI are sending their officers, 100 of them, to learn about bulls, bullocks, to learn about cows and heifers, to learn about artificial insemination and the like. They're going to be so knowledgeable about farming ways that they'll forget about hitting the bad guys and taking that. Right, Gareth, take us on.
Just a couple of things. The annual primary schools cross country was on at Kilbrony last week,
Yes.
which always brings out a good crowd. So a couple of pages of pictures there. So, but then I know it's a sport that you cover, and like you cover quite regularly in Destination Newry. The darts. We've come to the open individuals finals. Paddy Kearney, who is well known for beating Phil Taylor last year, is the current holder. He's into the
You
final
can
again.
detect the look of total incomprehension that descends upon me
Phil the Power Taylor.
as you talk about darts.
Well, it's a
You've
very
heard of Phil Taylor, have you not?
No,
dear. It's a huge sport right in the area.
seems to be.
Yeah, it is.
It seems to be.
But it's an interesting story. He's playing in the final, which will be on the 19th of June. He's playing Paddy McGreevy from the Clockmore Inn in Rostrevor. Now, Paddy would have probably, I think he won the individuals about 3 or 4 years ago. Was certainly one of the best players ever to come out of the area, and then quit completely because he had what's known in the game as dartitis,
Dartitis.
as in you can't let go of the dart. So,
Wow.
So you're standing like that.
And you're just
You
won't-
physically
Yeah.
can't let
Who
go
has
of
that?
frightened of
Quite
it.
quite a few people.
How
If
do
you
you-
saw me throwing darts in a fight,
How do you
I actually
play?
don't have
There was a
it.
tr-
How do you
Yeah,
play
program on
darts?
last night about that.
And these people, this is playing darts. Are they penalised for all of this here?
Eric Bristow had it as well, one of the most famous darts players. He had
Wow.
dartitis where he couldn't release the dart. He would go like that there, and it
I'm going to
wouldn't.
get will it to go.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just I don't know whether it's a physical thing or a psychological.
Are they all
thing.
big and fat and beer drinking?
No.
I'm glad to hear that because I've seen these darts people on television in England. There was
won't
one
talk
on.
about
There was one on last night, and he was bedecked in jewellery and the like, and the hugeness of his rounded part, just big belly, and it's very unhealthy. Some of them.
It wouldn't be. You wouldn't have to be a finely tuned athlete to play it. Hence why I play it. But, you know, what I mean? I get the dig in before Brian follows.
Oh, no, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
This is
good
like
to
a
see,
Punch and Judy show here. I tell you.
Paddy McGreevy, he said Cook's come back and played this year, and by all reports, he's done very well. Nice in
Yeah.
the individual final, so it's good to see him recovered from his troubles.
Yeah.
I would say.
Guys, you have one story each to go. Brian.
I'll pick this week's story. We picked our story on the history page of Ryan Sands, and the headline is "Dramatic Rescue for Lucky Bull."
Wow.
And this is
There's a helicopter involved.
it's an army helicopter that was involved rescuing a bull from a field in Whitecross in 1974. Quite striking images, and I think it's a very popular page
Yeah.
in the paper. the
I
local
should
history
tell
page.
you of my association with rescuing a creature. There was an army patrol in bygone days going up Hill Street, and they had a dog loose, an Alsatian loose, sniffing around looking for whatever. And the dog got the whiff of the water across at the town hall, and he took a run, And he got up on the wall, he looked, and he either slipped or jumped down into the receding tide. So the dog was trapped, walking around, wandering around, and I just come out of my car and I had a rope ladder in the car for my sailing purposes. And the soldiers were looking down into the water, trying to figure out how they'd get the dog out. I said, "Gentlemen, let me help." So I got the rope ladder out, put the rope ladder down in, and the soldier went down the rope ladder and started. So I went down as well and started to round up the dog. We got the dog and brought him back up to take the dog up the rope ladder and get him safe. And the soldier, the gun in this hand, you see, and pushing the dog up. I said, "Hold on, give me the gun." And he handed me the gun, and I'm holding the gun, and he gets the dog up, and then I hand him the gun back. That's a story of mine.
That's a nice tale.
Yeah, that's something I wouldn't have done if I was a soldier, but there you go.
Final from you, sir.
Just lastly, it's three very, very short stories, all on page 47. This weekend, Camla Amateur Boxing Club are having their annual tournament, the Harry Shields Boxing Tournament. It's in Carrickcroppen Gaelic Club.
Shields, that's
Friday
an iconic name.
At
Yes.
the first bout's at 8 p.m. So they've one of the All-Ireland champions, Fergus Quinn, boxing for them. And then a couple of things from a soccer point of view. Newry City will be having a trial match on the 27th of June. So, and it's for the first team. Well, it's for the first team slash reserves. So, if anybody wants to come down, it's at 3 o'clock at the.
So anybody can
yeah,
go down
anybody,
and
yeah, you can get
try
out.
it.
Yeah, they've done it every year since they're
So
reformed.
there could be hidden talent there.
There could be.
That's
yeah.
what you're after.
So look at Brian there,
Yeah.
D over there.
Yeah.
And then
you can quip like that whenever you mark the gooch. I tell you, you can do that, or when the gooch marks you.
well, that's what I was thinking. Whenever he gives him the runaround.
And
And then just on one from the Carnbed League, obviously the Carnbed League and every football league needs referees.
Yeah.
So we need they've called for referees, refereeing course.
Okay.
If anybody wants to go and contact Brian Naughton, so it's on page 47 of our paper.
Gentlemen, Mr. McCulloch and Mr. Hyland, I thank you most sincerely for coming in. I am Mr. Hand, and we wish you well. You're with Destination Newry.